Two police officers smashed a bottle over the head of a black attorney named David Grant during a heated encounter, completely unaware of the chain of events they had just unleashed. What happened next would leave everyone stunned. It was a calm Saturday night, and the city hummed with life. Street lights illuminated the sidewalks, and the faint echoes of laughter and conversation spilled out from restaurants and bars. Among the bustle, David sought a rare moment of respite from his demanding week. He had spent long days immersed in trials, working through the complexities of the justice system. Tonight was a chance to relax, recharge, and enjoy some quiet time away from the pressures of his career. Inside a cozy bar, the atmosphere was lively but not overwhelming. Patrons chatted over drinks, the sound of clinking glasses mingling with soft music playing in the background. David sat at a small table near the bar, sipping from a glass bottle of his favorite drink. His suit jacket hung over the back of his chair, and his tie was loosened, a signal that he had transitioned from work to relaxation. The hours passed pleasantly. David shared a few friendly nods with other patrons and briefly chatted with the bartender, who recognized him from the courthouse. It was a night of unwinding, a fleeting moment of solitude in his otherwise demanding life. Just a few blocks away, the local police department was on high alert. A vague report of a theft had come in, but the only detail provided was that the suspect was black. No age, height, or further description was given. The officers were determined to catch the thief, despite the lack of specifics. Patrol cars prowled the streets, their lights casting red and blue flashes onto buildings and sidewalks. As one patrol car turned a corner near the bar, the officers inside noticed David stepping out onto the sidewalk. He held a glass bottle in his hand, the remainder of the drink he had purchased. His movements were relaxed, his expression calm, reflecting an evening of unwinding. But the officers' attention zeroed in on him immediately. To them, David fit the limited description they had: a black man. They didn't pause to consider his polished attire, composed demeanor, or the fact that he had just left a bar, an unlikely place for a thief to emerge. Instead, their instincts kicked in, fueled by the single detail they had been given. Without hesitation, they decided to act. The patrol car screeched to a halt a few feet away, the sudden stop drawing the attention of pedestrians nearby. The officers jumped out quickly, their weapons drawn. David, startled by the abrupt commotion, froze on the sidewalk. He hadn't taken more than a step before the shouting began. "Hands up!" One of the officers barked, their voices sharp and commanding. "Drop the bottle." Confused and alarmed, David's brow furrowed. He raised his hand slowly, the bottle still dangling from his fingers. "Wait, what's going on?" he stammered. "I just left the bar. There must be some mistake." But his words fell on deaf ears. The officers didn't hear the confusion in his voice, or perhaps they didn't care to listen. Their suspicion was set, and their minds left no room for doubt. One of them stepped forward, a chilling warning on his lips. "Move a muscle, and you'll regret it." Fear gripped David. He raised his hands higher, trying to comply. The street seemed to fall eerily silent as bystanders watched from a distance, hesitant to interfere. David's heart pounded, each beat echoing the fear and disbelief coursing through his veins. One of the officers stepped closer, his expression hard and unreadable. He reached out and snatched the bottle from David's hand. David flinched, his body tense with apprehension. Before he could process what was happening, the officer lifted the bottle and smashed it over his head. Glass shattered, sending shards flying in every direction. Pain exploded across David's scalp. He staggered backward, his vision blurring as warm blood began to trickle down his face. It soaked his shirt, sticky and bright against the white fabric. His thoughts swam in a haze of pain, confusion, and disbelief. He swayed on his feet, barely able to comprehend why he was being treated this way. I didn't do anything," he murmured weakly, the words barely audible. But the officers weren't listening. They wrenched his arms behind his back and clamped handcuffs around his wrists. The cold metal bit into his skin. Rough hands shoved him against a patrol car, the motion jarring his already dazed state. Blood dripped steadily, staining the sidewalk beneath him. David's breathing grew shallow. He tried to speak, to explain, but his voice was drowned out by the officer's self-satisfied remarks. They loaded him into the back of the patrol car, their faces smug, as if they had caught a dangerous criminal. They never paused to consider the damage they had done or the possibility that they were wrong. The patrol car pulled away, leaving the scene behind. The onlookers who had witnessed the encounter slowly dispersed, their faces etched with concern and resignation. David sat slumped in the back seat, his head resting against the cold window. Blood smeared the glass, his thoughts a chaotic mix of pain, fear, and anger. What had started as a peaceful night had spiraled into a nightmare he could barely comprehend. At the police station, the officers marched David inside, still handcuffed and bleeding. The fluorescent lights were harsh and unkind, illuminating his injuries for all to see. They forced him onto a bench near the booking desk. He leaned his head back against the wall, the cold metal offering no comfort. The blood on his face obscured his features, reducing him to just another suspect in the eyes of the officers. But everything changed when they finally wiped away the blood and realized who he was. David Grant, a respected attorney, a man who knew the law and his rights better than most. The room went silent as the truth sank in. The smug confidence drained from the officers' faces, replaced by dawning horror. David's voice, steady despite the pain, cut through the silence. "You've made a terrible mistake." The realization of their actions hung in the air like a storm cloud. The consequences of their reckless, prejudiced decisions were about to unfold, and there would be no escaping accountability.